Netease has been changing their game plan recently. Have you noticed any difference? You probably have, but I'm sure you didn't really think of why they're doing this, so let's discuss. One disclaimer for this video is that the things that we discuss in this video are completely my opinions and are based upon what I have seen in the community and what I've seen in the changes over the past few months that Netease has implemented. Also, this includes a lot of speculation. Netease is the company behind Identity V, and over the past few months and over the past few seasons of the game, with new hunters, new survivors coming out, I can see a big change that is starting to happen in Identity V. Let me explain what I mean and why I think what I think. Identity V has a very frequent update and balancing regime. Every week or every 2 weeks, the game gets fixes, or characters get adjustments, or new characters are introduced to the game. Yet I would say that the game has remained quite stagnant and isn't really moving forward very much. Or at least not until recently. The state of being stagnant is way more visible in higher tiers, where most of the time the meta hasn't really changed since the release of the game. Characters such as Mechanic, Seer, Mercenary and Forward, now with the inclusion of Priestess, have remained the meta since their release. These characters are first picks in high tiers and also in tournaments. Another reason the game isn't changing is due to the fact that the persona webs have also remained very stagnant, also very unchanging. And I would say they are still not very flexible. You need to bring Borrowed Time, Exit Path, and then your choice of either Tide Turner or Broken Windows. These are the only persona webs that you can take as a survivor, and if you don't take them, this probably means that you're going to lose the match. And this is really starting to affect the player base. We've seen a lot of original players who've been playing since the beginning have started to leave, or at least players that have been around for a long time are starting to get disillusioned with the game. Netease is losing players and they aren't retaining new players for long enough. So they have decided to try out new things and to shake up the game a little bit. Another thing that's affecting Identity V is power creep. Now, what is power creep? Power creep is when a company introduces a new type of mechanic or type of ability or new type of survivor or hunter that is better than everything that came before it. This means that in competitive and ranked matches, you have to play this character or risk losing. Other characters then become almost useless, so what does the company need to do? They either release new characters that are even more powerful or the same power as the level as the one they just released, or they bring up all the other characters and abilities to that standard. This means that the game always gets more powerful and more powerful and more powerful, leaving behind everything that was before it. This forces players to play only the newer characters. We can see this change especially with the release of Mad Eyes and Dream Witch. Before Mad Eyes and Dream Witch, hunters were mostly just chasing characters. They had different abilities that would help them chase and really shorten kiting times. Sometimes they would interact with ciphers, but in general they would not really do this, and their focus was quickly getting down survivors and chairing them, and then possibly camping them. With the release of Mad Eyes and Dream Witch though, the game changed completely. A new style of hunting was introduced. This is called map pressure. Map pressure is when you're able to control the map even though you're in another part of the map. So for example, if you're camping a chair, you can still monitor the ciphers around the map and stop people from decoding. This slows down a match significantly. That gives you more time as a hunter to win the match and get down more characters in the chairs. Mad Eyes can attack different parts of the map by watching them from above and using his walls to chip damage people who are on different ciphers. Dream Witch can be almost anywhere on the map at any point, can monitor ciphers, can be chasing, and also can be right next to a chair at the same time. These new abilities made it almost necessary to play these hunters, and every hunter before them became almost useless. This new leap in power, or this power creep, this has forced Netease to make adjustments to characters that came before these characters to give them map pressure. This is what we call power creep, with adjustments for Anne coming in that now affect decoding, and also Gamekeeper that now he can pressure the map with his bear traps. More specifically, we can see a big change in the meta when Sculptor came along. Sculptor had both chase and also map pressure in the form of her knife, where she can throw it down and see somewhere else on the map even though she's not there. She has inbuilt map pressure, and also she has anti-kiting or anti-chase. This has made any hunter that does not have map pressure become almost useless or very specialized. This is one of the reasons that Ripper has fallen out of meta plays. What is Netease's master plan then? Let's address that last point that I mentioned, power creep. Netease is most probably going to update all the previous hunters that have already been released to have some type of map pressure or cipher pressure. This includes Ripper, Clown, and all the other older hunters that we have from the original game, possibly even Hellember. they're most probably going to get some type of cipher pressure or decoding debuff for the survivors, or some type of ability that can actually help them be in multiple places at the same time, or affect multiple places at the same time. As of the release of this video, there are rumors that characters like Ripper, Lucino, who is Evil Reptilian, and also Photographer are soon to get a new adjustment, and this is what I expect from them. Ripper is probably going to get some ability that will help him to move faster around the map, or to affect ciphers. Lucino is probably going to be able to move around the map much faster, or to be able to leave something behind him that can also control the map. And then Photographer is probably going to get some adjustments to his photo wall that can maybe slow down decoding even more. The newer hunters don't need this. For example, Sculptor, who already has map pressure, and also Broken Wheel that has just been announced, who can move around the map at incredible speed, so he doesn't really need map pressure because his movement is his map pressure. Percy is a small exception to this, but we'll get to him in a minute. I expect future hunters that are yet to come to have abilities that have lots of map pressure and also anti-kite or anti-chase abilities already built into them. Without these abilities, these hunters will become useless or not playable in competitive or ranked matches, and especially in tournaments. But this hunter power creep hasn't exactly happened because hunters have gotten too powerful, but because survivors have gotten more powerful. If you've noticed, a lot of the newer survivors have gotten much better at making kites longer. With the introduction of Gravekeeper, he now can kite for an extended time due to his 2 shovels that can take 2 hits. Priestess can use her portals to go through walls or transport people across the map. First Officer can use his pendant to be able to go invisible, making it much longer to catch a character. This has forced Hunter's power levels to increase as the Survivor powers increase as well. Not only that, but the introduction of accelerated decoding has made matches even shorter than they were before, so map pressure has become key for Hunters. We can especially see this in tournament gameplays, where most of the time Survivor teams will play Mercenary, Mechanic, Forward, and Seer. All of these characters except for Mechanic have a lot of hits and lots of kiting abilities, giving the team enough time to get into accelerated decoding and then decode all of the ciphers really quickly. This has made it necessary for survivors to have some type of kiting ability to be viable. For example, if you see the introduction of Prisoner, he is a decoder, but he also has a little ability that lets him extend his kite, and that is his electric shock. I believe that Netease is going to continue to release survivors that have some type of kiting ability, even characters that are meant to be decoders. This is again due to survivor power creep. If the survivor can't kite, then they are a liability to the team. Now let's talk about Percy. Percy was, in my opinion, Netease's master plan, but it failed. Percy, also known as Undead, is a really big counter to the meta characters and also to the meta persona webs. Well, that was what he was intended to be. Originally, when Percy was released, and still to this day, rescue characters are really pointless against someone playing as Undead. In my opinion, Netease wanted to introduce this character, giving them the possibility to have to rethink which characters or survivors they were going to play, just because it was possible that they might play against a Percy. The teams that would usually pick Mercenary, Seer, and Forward now have to debate if this is a good idea because they might go against Percy, where these characters would be almost useless. But this is where Percy failed. He never became powerful enough. Netease made it look good on paper, and I think they really thought that this was going to be a big change where Percy would enter into the top S tier lines of hunters. But he failed. He never really managed it. He really loses to tight kiting, and he is very weak to Cypher Rush. So really you don't see Percys in top tiers anymore. So this means that survivors don't have to worry about playing against the Percy because nobody really plays them because they know they will lose. So they can just play the same things they've always been playing. Another way that Percy was meant to be introduced as an anti-meta character was with persona webs. Until his change or his adjustment, much of the persona web that people took didn't make any sense against the Percy. For example, Tide Turner originally was useless, and this was a big hit against those who always took Tide Turner in their teams. I believe that Netease had this plan to introduce Percy so that people would have to rethink their persona webs just in case they went against a Percy. Maybe they play against a Sculptor or a Dream Witch, but it's also possible they play against a Percy and Tide Turner might be useless. But again, we see that he never reached into the top tiers, so top tier survivors still don't have to worry against playing against an undead player, so they just play the same persona webs that they always have. With the introduction of Broken Wheel and Percy and their abilities to break pallets, we also see a big change in how Netease wants people to learn how to kite, or how they want top tier players to learn to kite. Both Percy and Broken Wheel are really good at anti-transition kiting. Their ability to hit people out when they're out in the open makes it very, very difficult for survivors to transition kite. Also, their abilities to break pallets very easily make tight kiting a new type of gameplay. In my opinion, this is Netease's way of trying to make Identity V feel fresh again for players who've been playing since the beginning or for a very, very long time. The game has started to feel a bit lackluster, so with this new introduction, OG players now need to learn how to kite again, and this maybe will keep them interested in the game for a little bit longer. In conclusion, I really see that Identity V is moving towards a very different style of gameplay than it used to. They are really trying to change up the core mechanics of the game and make it feel fresh and new for newer players and also for OG and veteran players. As I said, I expect future hunters to have lots of map control abilities and possibly also a lot of anti-kite abilities, and I expect survivors, even ones that are decoders, to have some type of protection for when they are kiting. I also expect that in the next few seasons that Netease will introduce some more hunters that are very anti-certain survivors or very anti-certain persona webs. Maybe a hunter to counter broken windows, or specifically tie turner, or maybe even borrowed time. There are tons of other points that I really wanted to discuss in this video, but I really don't have enough time. This video would be a very, very long video. Again, I want to repeat that this is just my opinion and just my speculation. I may be completely wrong. If you disagree with me, tell me down in the comments below, but if you think that I'm correct and you can think of any other examples, please tell me also in the comments down below. If you found this video interesting or even useful, then please give it a like. And subscribe if you would like to learn some more information, some tips, some tricks about Identity V, and maybe some information that you didn't even know. Take care, guys. Bye bye.